When Nintendo dropped that 15-second long teaser for Who is Emio, the last thing I was expecting was an entirely new game in the Famicom Detective series. This series of mystery adventure games, originating from the late 80s with a third game in the 90s, had 2 entries remade for the Nintendo Switch in 2021. Inspired directly by one of the progenitors of the detective fiction video game genre, the Protopia serial murder case from 1983, the Famicom Detective Club games star a private investigator's office with a couple of teenage sleuths on the payroll. While the first games were remade with their original warts and all, this is a whole new entry. They could honestly do so much with this, and I was excited for this game and yet entirely unprepared for how it would enrapture me. Emio, the Smiling Man, Famicom Detective Club starts off with the resurgence of an urban legend that spawned from a serial killer from nearly 2 decades ago, the titular Emio. This mysterious killer would find upset girls whilst roaming the city streets and offer them a smile that would last forever, in the form of strangling them and placing a paper bag on their head with the crudely drawn smile. Whilst the new case doesn't entirely match the old one, the crudely drawn smile face on the bag is more than enough for a calling card to bring back the fear of the legend. And so, the Shinsuke Utsugi private detective office himself, our insert name here protagonist, and Ayumi Tachibana are on the case. Famicom Detective Club games are classic adventure titles. You examine parts of the screen, select from various dialogue prompts, and mull over your thoughts as you scrape every clue you can from a scene. The first couple of games were very specific about what was needed to progress, and this could feel very frustrating, almost as if padding out the game for time. Now, this isn't too insane of a thought, given that the first couple of games were released in the late 80s, but Emio, the Smiling Man, seems to streamline it just a bit. There's still some friction to be found, but I feel it wouldn't be right to make it entirely smooth. Rotating through the options, ask, listen, think, and examine, the person's face will solve 90% of the interactions, with think often pointing you to the right track. The friction also helps you embody the protagonist more as you ponder your next course of actions. There's also a ton of flavored dialogue which really helps you feel like an investigator. Playing as both Ayumi and the protagonist is an entertaining feature, as it makes the private investigation team feel, well, much more like a team. Ayumi and the protagonist have individual notebooks, and if the perspective shifts between them, then the notebook is only up to date as far as that one character's perspective is before they sit down together to review the facts. It also means that the characters you interact with can show different sides of themselves depending on who's being talked to. While this doesn't occur very often, it's a very fun touch. Let's just get this out of the way. Every character in this game rules. The cast has complicated and nuanced characters with some fantastic animation work. Their personalities are on full display. The live 2D in the game is the best I've ever seen used, with its implementation allowing for small cutscenes containing gripping sequences, full of tension, as well as small extra details like Detective Kamihara's extra goofy moments, the protagonist showing up in the background of an Ayumi-focused scene, or Ayumi encroaching on his personal space as she tries to listen in on a call he got from their boss. These details only add to how endearing the cast is and how alive the world can feel. The background art is incredible, and the way various scenes are shot create both combination of proper movement in the scene or the recreation of what would be the viewer as a variety of camera angles. The game is fully voiced too, but not in English, but in every line of dialogue. Your viewpoint character gives a small thought to everything around him, which changes depending on context and goes a long way. Takashi Abo of Science Adventure fame is behind the game's score too, and he never misses. The standout track in all 3 of the remixes are the main themes, but the soundtrack is good at every angle. One of my favorite aspects of this game's story is the character's refusal to speculate. No one comes up with wild theories or runs off on useless goose chases. The cast works off the hard facts as much as they can, and it makes the case feel just so grounded. And when something feels grounded in some frame of reality, it's easier for it to be more immersive, emotional, and relatable. Emio, the Smiling Man, succeeds at this in a way that I didn't expect this murder mystery to attempt, turning the final acts into an enthralling nail-biter. I spent most of the final chapter with a pit in my stomach. There's no way that would be the resolution, right? That the culprit would be them? That wouldn't be the end of this mystery like that, right? But as I waited for the rug to be pulled out from under me, the pit only grew deeper, and it never came. There's an underlining theme, a connecting thread throughout the game's story: regret. It relates to what we chose to say, what we didn't say, and what we wish we could have done differently. Towards the end, during the fruitless waiting, I developed some spite detected at the game, that it shouldn't have ended like this. But that was the point. That's what was happening in the murder mystery after all. And I'd love to be more detailed, but that would spoil everything. That is until the game delivered the most incredible ending cutscene ever. I haven't played an adventure game that offered something that left me with such a raw, visceral feeling in a long time. Just how much effort and work went into this cannot be overstated, and you can bet someone is absolutely going to ruin it for everyone by uploading it to YouTube unspoiled for all to see. So if you're interested, you better play now. Spoilers are already there. Stop, don't look, just go play. It feels like a send-off, the last big adventure game on the Nintendo Switch. I'm happy that this will be the one on this console, but I desperately crave for Nintendo to fund more Famicom Detective games. No expense was spared in crafting this meticulously crafted and fleshed out narrative, and you'd expect this kind of polish and detail if Nintendo were the frontrunners for the adventure game genre. Emio, the smiling man, will stick in my mind for a very long time. Noisy Pixel is giving Emio, the smiling man, a 10 out of 10. Thanks for watching. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers providing independent gaming coverage through news, reviews, previews, and more. Check out our Patreon to help support our continued growth, and subscribe to keep up with all our future content.
Noisy Pixel.